Hooray.
All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Teresa Conroy-Roth, and you are watching the very next episode of Lightning Leadership. I'm here today with my good friend, confidant, mentor, partner in crime on quite a few boards, Gail Farnsley. Gail, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. What a way to spend a Friday morning.
What a way to spend a Friday morning. So I was thinking back in the first time I met you, and it's been quite some time.
Yes.
Since you and I first connected at, I believe it was a Paradise Cafe in Indianapolis over a cup of coffee. And very quickly we, told each other our story, our beginning stories, and realized that we were both from Northeastern Ohio and both had access to Route 18 because Route 18 ends or begins, I should say, in Ellett, where I grew up, and ends over near Medina.
Yes.
So it was just a really small world, but I thought we were probably more kindred spirits at that point. Just kind of going, oh, that's just too weird. So anyway, I've been in awe of you for years, just the intelligence and the brilliance and your personality and just in awe. And so when you said yes, I couldn't have been more thrilled. So thank you.
Well, I would say when you asked, right? It's funny you say we met at a Paradise Cafe because I miss that place.
I do.
I've always thought it was wonderful, but I have to be honest, it made me think about I'm so fortunate, how many amazing coffee chats like that have I had with women over the years, and men too, but where just somebody said, oh, you should talk to so-and-so, and we talk, and then how many years later are we still friends and see each other and help each other? It's wonderful.
It is. So somebody recently called me out, Barb Spangler, I'll say her name again, recently called me out about a Zap moment, right? It's called Lightning Leadership. We need to have a Zap moment. When did you first realize that you had leadership skills? When was the first time you figured that out?
All right. What time is it? Because I do feel like that, right? I have total, me. I've complete imposter syndrome. It's like, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes ago, but when you asked me to do this, but I pause and think about it, right? And I think back, and what's frightening, I think, is to think of how long ago it was, because I thought about when was the first time I really moved from that. I was a coder, right? I'm an introvert. I'm heads down, writing my COBOL code and my assembler code. And I was happy doing that. And somebody tapped me and said, hey, why don't you do this analysis stuff? And so, I move up the chain and but I was doing a lot of project management, right?
Yeah.
When I was at Georgia Pacific in Atlanta, and I was really in my early 30s. That's what's the scary part to think about, how long that was ago. I was tapped to lead an implementation of an ERP system.
Okay.
And
about that.
Yeah, right. We've all got battle scars from those.
Me too.
So I when I took that on, I remember, my supervisor, manager at the time, and I look up and say, thank you, Dan. He was a tremendous person, passed away just suddenly and unexpectedly in the last 6 months. And it was one of those people where everybody came out of the woodwork to say how he had changed their lives. And I was one of those people. He saw something in me that I didn't see in myself and said, no, you can do this. You can lead this. And, he taught me a lot about the tips and tricks to do it, but he saw some sort of spark. Nice. And he caused me to see that spark. And he caused me to see that I could do that. So
that's awesome.
Thank you, Dan Maddox. Always. Thank you.
I love it. So we were out at a brewery for Tiffany Trustee's Nerdy Girls.
Yes.
And I was sitting across the table from you and our good friend Darcy Lee. And I think we were actually leaving the restaurant. And Darcy had mentioned or thanked you for this decision matrix that you had coached her on at some point, I think a year or two ago. Yep. And I sat there in envy, wondering what this decision matrix was, and would love to have you explain it. And this is the first time that I've heard about it. Yes. So please tell. I'm honestly really excited to have you share.
Thank you. And so when I thought about it, my first thought was, gosh, this isn't leadership. It's just a tool. And then I thought, wait, if I was really like young and hip, it would be a hack. Right. And I'd be like on TikTok talking about it. But instead, we're going to do this. Talk about it as a tool. But as I thought about it in the context of leadership, right,
Yeah.
I realized when I do my kind of here's who I am talk, right, and lessons learned along the way, one of the key things I stress to particularly young women that I'm speaking to, I do a lot of work with college women, is knowing what's important, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out when you make a decision, people talk about do the pros and cons, and that's kind of binary. It's very binary.
Yeah.
I like to think about it it's when you're making a big decision or even a small decision, it's about you got to make it based on what matters to you. And that actually changes over time, right?
It
So I think
does.
it's really important to be thoughtful about that. So kind of that was always something that was in my brain and thinking that it's a multifaceted decision. Then when I was at Cummins, we were implementing Six Sigma. And one of the things that we did was made the decision as a company that we wanted everyone to have Six Sigma training, which for an IT department made perfect sense. I mean, what do? We do voice of the customer, we gather requirements, we make things more efficient. Perfect. So we made a rule that everybody had to go through this and do projects and become certified. And I got a lot of kind of concern and whinging from people about, well, I don't have time to do this and with my day job. So I was the CIO and I said, well, I guess if I do it, it'll be harder for people to complain they don't have time, right? So I signed up, took my training, and went in with my project because one of the things I wanted to stress was Six Sigma isn't about just improving production lines, right? And making production lines more efficient. You can do it in anything.
Yes.
So went in and said, okay, let's use this Six Sigma tool to develop leadership succession planning. So I did a voice of the customer exercise. I went out and interviewed the vice presidents and said, what do we need in leaders today and in the future? Gathered skills and experiences that were needed. Took that back with my project team. We mapped it to jobs that we felt like were pivotal leadership development jobs so that an employee could use that to say, I've got these 3 skills or experiences, but I need to build these ones. Which of these jobs that are available would be good candidates for me personally to
Love it.
build my leadership, right? So it was just a way to help them tailor it. So again, that was the first time I used it. And it was a kind of a good aha. I mean, I felt really good about that. And I have through the years kind of lost count of how many people I've sent this tool to and given them the quick tutorial, right?
Yeah.
And ended up teaching it at Purdue. When I worked with women in technology, we did a session with our students and we decided we needed to start with a session on how do you decide what your values are and what's important. So if you're going to pick, these are young women in the Purdue Polytechnic, freshmen, starting their college careers. They're all exceptional, right? They're going to have so many opportunities in front of them.
Yeah.
How do they choose? So helping them think about what matters. And so that's where it kind of moved from being this kind of Six Sigma cause and effect matrix into a real leadership development tool that you can use as an individual or you can use as a manager and a leader trying to build your team.
You had mentioned something in the past about having you and maybe your spouse do it.
Yes.
With regards to how does that work? Any tips for that?
Yes, very much so. So when you do the exercise, there's 3 steps real quick, right?
Yeah.
One is you kind of figure out what's important to you. What's the criteria you're going to put across the top of this matrix? Then you have to rank how important they are to you. So the key is when you're working, and I think my husband and I have used it for multiple things over the years, where you kind of talk together and decide what do you think the things are important, and then you rank them separately.
Okay.
And then you come back together and say, how did we rank these? And you have the beauty is not, I think it's one of the things I like about this tool. The engineer techie geek girl in me loves the numbers and there's like precision in those numbers, but it's false, right? The precision in those numbers isn't real, but your gut will tell you what's really happening, right? So that you need both things. And so what's kind of fun is we would do it and then we'd sit down and say, "Ooh, I thought this was way more important. Why did you think that?" And so we'd work it through.
Yeah.
And so that was always a really important, that discussion was hugely helpful in getting us to agree on something that we probably thought we already agreed on.
Very good.
It would give us a tool to kind of put it in front and say, oh, okay, yeah, I guess we weren't on the same page there. But in a pretty safe way. Right?
In a very safe
non-confrontational way.
I love it.
You need that.
You do.
Yeah.
Gail, thank you so much. I really appreciate your wisdom and your advice. Thank you so much for being on the show. If anybody's interested in learning more about the Matrix, check out Gail Farnsley on LinkedIn. And if you are on LinkedIn and you do see the podcast, Please remember to like, repost, and share. We also have a YouTube channel, so check us out there for all of the podcasts. And remember to like and subscribe. Thank you so much, Gail Farnsley. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, my friend. Take care.